What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy YouTube channel. I am your host, as always, Kevin Coleman. And today we're talking about 2026 running backs. So we're looking at the 2026 class. We did quarterbacks last week. So we dived into this early class. And I know it's early and everybody's like, you're crazy going in this. But I know you guys out there that play Devy in college fantasy and just in general that like college football. I love going through these guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the top five in our rankings. And then we're going to go through like, hey, what do they do well? What do they need to work on? And then we got the game tape for you guys. We got some huddle tape to kind of break down. And then we have some on the radar prospects, guys that you should be looking out for, kind of go through deep through our rankings. So stay on the channel, hit that like button while the intro is going, and then we'll dive into our top five running backs of this class. All right, so let's dive into the 2026 class and what we see. So, hey, number one for us is Cedric Baxter Jr. Now, I know that he is the number one in 247 sports, and I know he's not everybody's number one, but I just think he's a very solid running back. So, 2022, 174 carries, 1,300 yards, and 13 touchdowns. And again, high school stats is one of those things you try to find the best you can, and sometimes you can't find everything. But Cedric's going to Texas, and they have an opening out there in Texas, right? So when we're thinking of like what their roster looks like Cedric can come in and be kind of that running back that shows up right now. When we're looking at what he does well, first he's a 3 down back, so this kid's going to be able to do all of that. So like I think that when he can catch passes, he can kind of do all of those things that you like to see. He doesn't a huge pass catcher in high school from what you saw, but hey, he could do it, right? So I think he could be a 3 down back. And where he's going and projecting, like, hey, project running back to Texas. Look at Bijan. Look at these guys. Rashawn Johnson's probably going to get drafted. So strength wise, too, like he's a legitimate strength guy. Again, the speed thing is weird. Like I think he has a laser time at 4.5, right? So we're not talking like super speed here, but at 4.5 at his size, I think that's really good. Already coming in over 200 pounds. Good contact balance. When you watch him run, this kid has very good contact balance. He gets hit, he's able to stay up. Weaknesses, I think lateral agility out in the open field. I think that's one. Split usage as well. Like, will he take over that running back room? Or, when you're looking at the depth chart overall, is he going to be able to win that job? Right. And I think that's the question with him. And some of these guys, like a lot of these guys, and then you worry about that at the running back position. I feel like the elite guys take over early, especially in college football. So that's something to note. When we're thinking Jonathan Brooks is there, who's really good. Keelan Robinson is really good. So overall, can Cedric take over that job? Now, when you're watching his tape, though, and we're going to go into it and look, he does a lot of good things, even in punt return and those type of areas. And this is where you see him not amazing lateral agility, but he does have that speed, right? So when you watch him here, you're like, hey, this kid can kind of play a little bit. You'll notice him here. And I love huddle tape, baby, big dog status. But again, he gets it out the outside, good vision. And then you see that 4.5 speed there, right? So we're not talking like elite speed, but he can break away from defenses. And that's what you like to see from him. Again, as a runner, really good contact balance and strength. And you'll see it here. And he still can break it to the outside. Like those are the things that you really like to see. And this is what excites you about him as a runner. Like, hey, if he can step into that Texas offense, you're talking about a legitimate threat, right? And that's what you kind of want to see. You want to see that breakout. And again, like I mentioned, 3 down ability, kind of inside run, inside zone, breaks it to the outside. He does that really well. Like that inside run stuff when you're watching his high school tape, like that is a legitimate thing that he does. And I think he fits Sark's offense. So like going forward with Sark's offense and what they're trying to do on Texas, he's going to fit right in there. And I think he's going to have some playing ability. Quinn Ewers is there and Arch Manning is there. Like, what does that look like? But his ability to kind of be on the inside. And this is a silly run. Like, it looks like little kids out there. So again, when we look at competition, I mean, that's legitimate. Like, no one can take him down. Like, that's like what makes you excited about Cedric. That's probably one of the reasons why, when we think about why he's number one, production, but also just overall, like, he just makes guys look dumb in high school. Like, you see it here. Reaches blocks pretty well, but like, you're not taking him down with an arm tackle. So what you see a lot in his tape, especially from his high school years, is just a lot of arm tackles. That's not going to be the case. So again, you'll see it here. That's just special speed, special size, special awareness. Like that's why I know some guys are a little bit further down on him, and I don't necessarily know why. I'm not sure where that's come from, but overall, like if you have met one, I don't think you can hate that, right? Like again, everything inside zone here, and he just makes guys miss. He creates for himself. There are some runners that when you're watching the tape, they don't create for themselves, right? So like you're like, oh, well, it's high school. What does that look like? He creates for himself, and he has that breakaway, and you like that about Cedric, and I really enjoy that about him. Now, when we're looking at our number 2 guy, Ruben Owens, going to Texas A&M, he was going to Louisville before the coaching change. I mean, he just produces, man. So the thing about Ruben is he's just going to go 1,700 yards, 2022, 25 touchdowns, 8.4 yards of average, right? 203 attempts. Could be a workhorse, right? So they comped him to Joe Mixon in terms of 247 sports, but could be just a workhorse guy. Now, when you talk about scouting wise, elite producer, this kid just produces everywhere he goes, right? So and we're just looking at just overall, like thousands yards, when you're looking at just in terms of each season, touchdowns. He had 26 touchdowns his junior year. Absolutely was incredible there. Explosiveness, you see that on the tape. Like you're going to watch here in a second about this explosiveness out there and his lateral agility, right? So I think lateral agility is something that you have to highlight with him in the open field. He also has a laser time. So when you're looking at what his laser time is and where it comes from, like it's legitimate, right? So it's legitimate there. And in lateral agility, like you have to like his lateral agility and his ability to kind of make guys miss. Those things really set him apart. His weaknesses, so he's not a receiver. So at any point, like when you're looking at that, when you're looking at his numbers and you're looking at all that kind of stuff, we don't see that, right? So that receiving area is not there. He actually did eclipse over 7,000 rushing yards, though. So when you're looking at it, like he had over 7,000 rushing yards and over 100 rushing touchdowns. That's legitimate, right? And in high school, like that's something there. But he didn't have any receiving stats, really. Like there was nothing that really popped off. Running style as well. Like you're going to watch it. I think he runs a little high. And then that A&M offense just hasn't been good. So when you're looking at it overall, I think running backs have been okay. But hey, they're bringing in, when you think about who they're bringing in, what does that look like? So Jimbo kind of gave up his play calling duties to Bobby Petrino. Now they have Amari Daniels out there. They have Le'Veon Moss. Ruben could step right in, right, though? So when we're talking about him, that's where it comes from. Now, when you're talking about him overall as a prospect, though, like he was a high-level producer, right? That's one of the big things about him. When we look at him overall, like he just produces, and that's one of those things, and you'll see it here. His lateral agility, his explosiveness, his ability to kind of take to the house and just score touchdowns. Like those are the things that he does extremely well for a runner. Now, kind of this outside run, zone, gets it up the field. And now I will say, when you're watching him, and this is one of those things when you're talking about like, hey, his running style really high, right? So when we're thinking of like his ability, he's definitely going to get hit, right? So when we think about where he's going to get hit at, we know where that's going to come from. He's got to fix that a little bit. He's got to get more lower to, center of gravity, get lower, able to kind of explode through. Like Ruben, those are the things that you want to see his improvement. But again, you're seeing here, like he reads his blocks really well. And I think his offense set him up for this. Like he kind of reads his blocks and then he's able to explode through the hole. And I think that's the thing that I like about him the most, his explosion through the hole, his ability to do that. Those are the things that really get highlighted here, right? A good size too. He's probably going to be out there like 190, 200. He could probably get in there. So we're not talking a smaller guy, but really just was there, right? And and he's actually, in terms of like track athlete, he was right there as well, right? So sub 11 in 100-meter times. He was a 4A state championship continuing long jumper. So I think athleticism testing, when we look at that, Jay Stein will be happy I said that, it's going to be pretty good, right? So when we're thinking of his analytical numbers and his ability to make guys miss in the open field, those things, like, Ruben does that really well. Now, he's going into an offense that could use him, right? So these guys, Cedric and him, they might be using that way. So that's Ruben Owens. He's at 2. Now we're going to talk about Justice Haynes. Justice Haynes is so much fun. Like I love watching Justice Haynes run. 5'11", 200, his senior stats, 1,600 yards, 23 touchdowns, really good. He also, as a receiver, he caught 9 catches for 239 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is a legitimate playmaker. Returned 2 kickoff returns for scores as well. So you saw that. Like he is just that. He's that guy, right? Now, explosive. Like I cannot say this enough about the kid. He's just an explosive athlete, really good long speed, like his ability to take it and just score at every touch of the football. This kid can score at every level, right? So he's the running back 2 on 247 Sports. Excellent contact balance, really good size, like elite production. Like those are the things that you love, right? Now on the flip end, I just put pass catching now. Like he did it, but only 9 catches. So like we need to see him more volume, more work there. I think if he does, though, he gets it and he'll be fine there, right? System, he's going into Alabama. And the thing with, when we think of like Alabama as a whole, like what's going to happen there, right? So, like, they have Jace McClellan who's going to be good, Roydell Williams, they have Justice there. We're going to talk about Richard Young. Like, they have guys coming in, and will he get the run, right? Well, that's the thing you have to wait with Alabama, and he's someone that's going to probably have to wait a little while, and he's going to need to add some strength. So when you're looking at just overall what he is and what his size is, like, he's going to need to add some strength there. I mean, his size is fine, 200 pounds, but you want to get him in there. He'll get in that strength program though, and he's going to be just damn fine. Like, that's the exciting thing about him. Now, if we watch the tape on him and kind of go through what he does well, I think when you're looking at him overall, and this is where you're going to see that kind of that size, that speed, and everything in there, he's really a total package. And that's why I wish he was going somewhere else so that he can instantly start out there. But he's a 3-down guy. I think if he can get working that pass catching and has that, I think that'd be really good. I think he's got size enough for mass. So when he gets in that weight room, he's going to legitimately be a legitimate guy in terms of strength and size. And it would not shock me to see him get 210, 215 this year. And again, right here, like making guys miss an open field, that's a grown ass man run. Right. That's fun. Like, if you're a college football fan and you're excited about, Alabama, and you're an Alabama fan, like, you're excited about this kid. Like, this kid is special. I really like him. You could have him up. Like, these are all tier 1 guys right now to me, like these 3 guys here. It wouldn't shock me to have, him above Ruben Owens, to be honest, like based on just what this tape looks like. I think Ruben's going to get a little bit of earlier opportunity than Haynes. But again, this is based on, talent and skill. So it wouldn't shock me to have him a little higher. You'll see it here though, just a playmaker. So when we think of like Justice, I think that the key word you got to come up with for him, for me, is like playmaker. Just a straight playmaker, ability to make guys miss, open field. He's going to add strength to his area there. And I think he's really good at redirecting in the open field too. Like, good, like right there, able to kind of break it, sees the seam, very good vision. Like, he is just a pure runner. And he's great. He's good, good strength, good athleticism, speed, those type of things. He did, when you going through his his years in high school, he rushed for about over 7,000 yards, right? So extremely efficient, very good runner. Things that you like to see. Now you're hoping he gets a little bit more run at Alabama, but hey, if he can do this, and if he shows that he can have that talent, you have to kind of put him up there. He's just a solid football player. Now, our 4 guy, and this is a little bit, different than some, but hey, Quentin Joyner, I think, there's some out there that don't like Quentin Joyner, and I don't know necessarily why. I think he, at 247 Sports, he's the running back 13. Good size, 5'11", 203, good numbers. Like, so when you're looking at what he's been able to put up from his stats, and especially this last year, 196 attempts, 1,700 yards, 9.1 yard average, 25 touchdowns. So like, you see that, hey, production's going to be there. Downhill runner. So when you're thinking about Quentin Joyner, downhill guy, again, line of scrimmage explosiveness. You'll see it, like his ability to kind of make guys miss and cut upfield. Like, you love that about him. Like, you love that. And again, he had 10.7 yards per carry and almost 300 rushes in between his sophomore and junior season. So this dude's averaging, like, he just averaging there, and he had good competition. So like, when we're thinking of where he's playing, like, hey, he played in legitimate Class 5A Texas ball, right? So that's legitimate competition, what he was doing out there in Manor, Texas, and you like that. Now, weaknesses, not really a pass catcher. So not really, nothing really stood out on tape or in his production standpoint from there. Contact balance, he needs to work on his strength in terms of his contact balance, and in long speed. I think he has very good short, intermediate, line of scrimmage explosiveness, those type of things. But that long speed can kind of be an issue. But overall, like, you like what you have for Joyner going to USC. Like, he, realistically, like, he's just a downhill kid, and I can understand like where some people might not like, maybe a little bit lack of fluidity, right? So when we're thinking like that fluid nature of like, okay, how are his hips? What does his athleticism look like? I think that's where some people have question marks about him. Going into USC, I do know they have Austin Jones coming back. Marshawn Lloyd is there now, right? Transfer from South Carolina. Raleek Brown's different weapon though. He's going to be on the outside. He's going to be a pass catcher, those type of things. When you're thinking of Joyner, he could come in and just be that. Maybe he can carve out a goal line where he probably maybe sit out, maybe redshirt, depending on what the season's going, depending on injuries in front of him. But Joyner is a kid that I really like. Like, I think that he's getting overshadowed a little bit. I think his downhill style, abilities to break tackles. He's just that downhill kid, right? So like, think of Judkins and those guys that come out of this, and you're like, hey, these guys kind of like sleepers, right? I don't necessarily think Joyner's a sleeper, but I don't think a lot of people have him in their top 5. So when you're looking at that from that perspective, like this is a kid that could make a name for himself, right? Raise his value. You don't have to draft him at this level because he's not getting drafted at this level, but he's a name to watch. Like, and that's why we do it on here, just to give you guys names to watch too. Maybe that people aren't really necessarily talking about, but you see that here, breakaway speed. He's able to do that, turns a corner, scores that touchdown. Those are the things that really, really kind of pop off the tape. If you like tape, obviously, if you hopefully you're watching the show, you like tape because that's what we do here. But again, breaks out, kind of do those things. Like those are the things that Joyner does well. He is in a crowded room though, and when we're talking about USC, there are always some guys, but he's in there. Now, our number 5 guy, Richard Young, also going to Alabama, 5'11", 200, 134 attempts, 830 yards. Then when you're looking at it, 7 touchdowns. I think the thing about Richard Young is like he had offers everywhere. Georgia, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon. I think, when you're looking at him, he was a little banged up this last year. That's why you see the production numbers a little bit. But he is a 3-down guy. So when you're looking at him overall, like, hey, he had that in 2021 when he was healthy, 1,700 rushing yards. He averaged 9 yards per carry, 3-0, second round of playoffs in 7A. So when we're thinking of like where he played at, right? So, in Florida, vision, really good vision that pops off on tape really well. Contact balance too. Like he can take hits. He stays up, breaks tackles, does those type of things that you like to see. He's going to emerge as kind of that guy. I think he's in a tough spot because of where he went. That's going to be tough for him. So he's going to have to really, really kind of step up and kind of earn that playing time with Justice ahead of him, these other guys that are ahead of him in that offense. Like that's something that you're going to have to look at. Loaded running back depth chart. I think that's the key with him. It's like just loaded in front of him. But again, if he gets the opportunity and gets out there, then we could be talking about maybe Richard is stepping up and maybe him and Haynes really doing that 1-2 combo of just Alabama backs that we're used to seeing, right? Like we're used to seeing that a lot. With both of these guys. So that's Richard Young. When you're talking about him, you're going to watch the tape here. Alabama's just getting loaded with talent again. Like Saban knows what's going on here. And I think the one thing that I would talk about as you guys watch the tape here with Richard, they have a quarterback battle going right now. I did a quarterback battles video on this. And when you're talking about Alabama and what they're looking at, they could just lean on their running back room, Jace and all these other guys that are there. And maybe these guys get more carries than we think of, right? And Alabama has done that in the past when they've had like a kind of iffy quarterback room. They just really lean heavy on their running backs. Think of Najee Harris, all the carries he used to get, like when you're thinking of all the way back, like these guys do that. So maybe, when you're looking at Saban's recruiting trail and why he did the way he did, he probably put a lot of these guys in there. So he knows he's going to be leaning on that running back room. So here's another guy, Richard, someone to keep your eye on in terms of like what he does as a prospect and good size. Like the thing about it, and if you're playing Devy, you're doing these things, or if you just look at college football in a whole, 200 pounds is what you're looking at, right? Like I don't want no sub 190 guy. I don't want 180. Cole Cabana, the Michigan, like 180, right? Like these are things that you're looking at from a pro perspective, like hit rates. It's not necessarily about do I like a guy. It's about hit rates, right? So that's the key. So that's Richard. We're going to watch this last run here, kind of just show you kind of what he's going to do. I do think he could be a threat in the red zone as well. Like you'll see him here in the Wildcat, being able to line up and do those things. Like those are things that you really like. So those are our top 5. Let's talk about some on the radar prospects, guys you should be looking at. Caleb Jackson. I think Caleb is one of those players that we're going to be talking about going to LSU. He's 247 Sports ranked number 12, 5'10", 200, good kid. Jeremiah Cobb, I know a lot of people like him, and going to Auburn, I think that's a pretty good spot for him. 185, you'll want to see his get his strength up a little bit. Isaiah Gustav, when you're looking at what he's been able to do going to Arkansas, you got to always highlight some of these kids going to Arkansas. 6'2", 195, big kid, right? Raheem Sanders type vibes. Obviously not as big as Raheem, but he could maybe get there. Roderick Robinson going to Georgia. Just mark down Robbins. Just mark down a running back going to Georgia. Like that's simple. Kedrick Riscano, like going to Ole Miss. I think he's someone in there. He's number 8. Judkins is right there. I think he could maybe find a role right behind that running back room. Keep an eye on him. And Trey Webb. I think Webb's out there right now. I think that he could really step up in that offense. I know they're loaded at running back, and I know that when you see like Montrell, Etienne, these guys, Webb's a guy to keep your eye on later, right? Okay, 6'1", 205. He's ranked 20th, but he's a guy on the radar to keep kind of looking at there. And what could he do moving forward? There's other guys out there. Dylan Edwards going to Colorado, small though, right? So 5'8", 160. Cabana going 180. If you're looking for a deep name, a guy that I like more than some, I know he didn't have the greatest senior year ever. But Benjamin Hall going to Michigan. I know I'm a Michigan fan, so I'm definitely biased there. But these are other guys that keep your eye on. So those are our 2026 running back class. Go check out the 2026 quarterback class. We're here to just kind of give you more content on this, kind of talk about some guys coming up that you may not have. Now, check out the mock drafts if you want to see, hey, where the mocks are at, where are these guys getting drafted. Go check that out on the channel. Hit that like button before you leave. Hit that subscribe button before you leave. That's even more important. And leave a damn comment. Let me know what you guys think. Like, who are some guys on your guys' radar? Where do you think some guys getting overdrafted? Is Joyner? Hey, did I put Joyner too high here? You know, at USC running back when we talk about where he's getting put at. I mean, because Amarian Peterson is also going there. So they do have some good runners going there. So let me know in the comments what you think. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.